Oh my God, a plane just crashed right here.
A deadly small jet crash catches an entire street on fire in one of the world's largest military neighborhoods.
I looked out the window and just saw fire all the way down the road.
I thought it was an earthquake, and then all of a sudden it was just pop, 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 pop.
We're live with how San Diegans are helping those impacted as investigators start to process what went wrong.
We plan on spending today, tonight, and all of tomorrow on scene.
The parent family evacuated with their children but didn't have time to grab their pets. The rescue and reunion you have to see.
CBS 8 News Live at 6 starts right now.
Investigators with the NTSB are combing through a Tierrasanta neighborhood right now, trying to piece together what caused a deadly small jet crash. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Anna Laurel, joined by Carlo Chiquetta, who is live in the neighborhood, thrown into chaos this morning. It's been our top story all day. The jet crashed just before 4 this morning at the intersection of Sample and Salmon Street. That's in a military housing complex not far from Montgomery Field. The crash doused jet fuel all over the street, and cars parked along it burst into flames. Tonight, the FAA confirms with us at least 6 people were on the jet. All are feared dead. According to music talent agency Sound Talent Group, 3 employees, including the co-founder, died in that crash. 8 people on the ground were hurt. NTSB investigators say the plane clipped power lines and then hit a house, but they say their investigation is just beginning.
We plan on spending today, tonight, and all of tomorrow on scene, documenting the accident site, and then plan on recovering the airplane to a secure location on Saturday.
Tonight, we're live with team coverage. CBS 8's Kelly Hezedal is standing by with more on the moments right before the crash and who was on the plane. Abby Black shares what's being done to help the nearly 100 people who were evacuated. And Shannon Handy is at the Humane Society, where pets found covered in jet fuel were taken after they were rescued. But let's start with Carlo, live on the scene of the crash right now. Carlo, what's happening out there?
Anna, as we get closer to nightfall, it's quieter and quieter in this neighborhood. We're seeing fewer personnel moving around. We have seen some military walk in recently. They look like MPs checking out the status of the neighborhood. We know it's evacuated right now, so perhaps they're here for security. This neighborhood is in the flight path along the way to Montgomery Field, which is about 1.5 miles from here. This plane went down as it was headed toward Montgomery Field. It clipped the power line first. You can see the impact point there on Salmon Street heading into Sample Street. 10297 is the address of the home that took the brunt of this. You can see a pickup truck in the front yard. It looks as if it was parked on Salmon Street and knocked by the force of that plane hitting the ground into the living room of that home. A lot of destruction on this end. Now, this is at the top of Sample Street. It's on a hill. And as it went down, jet fuel, flowed down in a river of fire. Our David Gottfredson has that part of the story.
The damage was not only in the plane crash area. Fuel leaked out of the plane, started going down the gutters, and caught fire. Imagine waking up at 4 in the morning, first to an explosion, and then to this, a river of jet fuel on fire running through the Murphy Canyon military housing area of Tierrasanta, catching vehicles on fire.
We felt our bed shake, and then we heard a pop, 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 pop. And my husband came downstairs to check things out, and he came back and said we might have to evacuate, and we came back and the whole street was on fire. The jet fuel came down and caught all those cars on fire, hit the gutter right there, and got another car on fire.
Rachel Riley took these photos outside her front door as she tried to calm down her 2 children and her dogs.
I just saw everything in yellow, red, flames everywhere, worrying about my neighbors and if they were okay. I mean, we're super fortunate that we didn't get hit, but I know I have a bunch of friends that live up there, so it's just kind of been a chaotic morning.
Some of the neighbors were able to drive out. Others evacuated on foot with their children in their arms. About a dozen cars burned on Sample Street. As the river of fire kept running downhill, it rounded the corner onto Taussig Street, catching more cars on fire and melting trash cans. Later in the day, neighbors started coming back, worried about their dogs in the evacuated neighborhood. San Diego Fire Captain Scott Fuller recorded this video to prove to the homeowner her dog was doing okay in the backyard.
There's Taj right there.
Thank you so much.
Of course, he's doing great. He was a little leery of us at first, but he warmed up real quick. Should we leave him in the backyard?
Yes, please.
There's a big bowl of water he's eating right now.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. We'll lock it up here in a minute. I'll bring you the keys.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The cleanup is still continuing along Sample Street tonight. It's going to take a while. The whole neighborhood smells of smoke and fire, and these vehicles have to be removed. In Tierrasanta, David Gottfredson, CBS 8.
David showing us some of the destruction left by this plane crash with the debris field strewn down Sample Street and all that jet fuel flowing down on fire. A lot of damage, a lot of chaos. So now a lot of people are left to wonder why. How did this happen? What took place in the air? What kind of decisions were made that led to this plane crash, this Cessna Citation, a small corporate jet crashing into Tierrasanta? For that part of this story, our Kelly Hessedall has been working all day and talked to another pilot about what went wrong here. Kelly?
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about in the moments that led up to this crash. But first, let's talk about who was on board that plane. According to the music agency Sound Talent Group, 3 of its employees were on board, including the agency's co-founder, Dave Shapiro. He is the listed owner of the plane. He is also a pilot. I can tell you his social media has been flooded with people writing "Rest in peace." So if you take a look here behind me, we're about a block away from where you are, Carlo, and you can see some of these burned out cars here behind me. Now, I talked to a very experienced commercial pilot, more than 40 years, and he flat out said this pilot never should have tried to land at Montgomery Field. Here's some of the air traffic controller audio.
3800 for cleared RNAV 28 right approach, Montgomery.
November 54 Romeo, amend. November 6 Delta Sierra, report your FR cancellation after landing via the phone. Do you have the number?
6 Delta Sierra, yeah, I've got the number.
Delta Sierra, roger that, and frequency change approved.
6 Delta Sierra, thanks. We'll hopefully not see you, but we might have to.
And that was the last we heard from the pilot before the crash. Now, that audio came from liveatc.net. You could hear the pilot was not in distress. His tone was pretty casual. At one point, he was going back and forth about possibly trying to land at Brown Field. The plane, a Cessna 550, was leaving Wichita, Kansas, and headed to San Diego. Now, the Montgomery Tower was not operating at the time, which I'm told isn't unusual. It's a small airport. But the bottom line is, according to Robert Katz, the pilot I spoke to, is that the pilot was unaware of the exact weather conditions before landing.
We can't control the weather. And to attempt an approach at an airport where you have no reported weather and the surrounding airports are reporting below minimums, you don't roll the dice. You go to where you have a reasonable assurance of being able to get on the ground safely. And what this guy attempted to do was take a look, which is what he said he was going to do. And that is incredibly dangerous.
And on board again, according to the music agency Sound Talent Group, co-founder Dave Shapiro, the owner, and at least two other, it sounds like, employees. We tracked down a recent post for a drummer named Daniel Williams. The tail number he posted matches the one involved in the crash, N666DS. He tagged Shapiro in the post and also posted photos from inside the cockpit. Now, the agency released a statement saying they are absolutely devastated. So back out here, CBS News spoke to that drummer's father. Williams' father confirmed his death. He was the ex-drummer of a band called The Devil Wears Prada. Shapiro was very well known in the music world. He did have a home here in San Carlos. So certainly a very heartbreaking situation. And as you can imagine, this investigation is going to be extensive. Carlo?
Yeah, a lot of troubling questions brought up by the situation the plane came down in. Thanks, Kelly. Now, Anna, I think we're going to send it back to you. Out here, again, it's a little bit quieter. They're not letting residents back into this part of Salmon Street yet. It is taped off at both ends of this block. Sample Street, over my left shoulder, you can see there are barriers. It's blocked off, a lot of work being done down there. That's where the primary scene of the crash is. The plane was moving in a west-northwest direction toward Montgomery Field, which is about 1.5 miles from here, when it went down, and that's the direction the debris and the jet fuel went. We'll have much more from the scene later in this newscast. For now, though, Anna, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, so many incredible, harrowing stories coming out of that this morning. Okay, so we just heard, Carlene, so foggy at the time of the crash. Fire crews even said they could not see in front of them.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Another reference that was made in Kelly's story is the fact that there was a lack of information coming out of Montgomery Field at the time when the crash did occur. For us to know about the visibility in the area and that fog, we had to actually look at nearby weather stations. So there was a gap in time when it came to weather readings that was going from 9:53 p.m. last night all the way through 4:53 this morning. And so that is what the pilot that Kelly had interviewed was referencing, is the fact that there was a lack of information. We had to go to nearby sites to find out about the low visibility, misty conditions, and then also some dense fog being factors potentially with this crash. The data started coming in again around 5:53 this morning. So when we look at the visibility map, looking at neighboring weather stations that were in our county, we saw that visibility down to about 1/2 mile. And when you're seeing that thickness with that low cloud ceiling, the dense fog that also developed, you have to also just look at the area and also see that they were impacted by this. So as you mentioned, Anna, first responders saying they could hardly see in front of them because of the low visibility, down to about 1/2 mile potentially at the time of this crash. We'll go ahead and give you more details in your forecasts coming up. Back to you.
All right, Carlene, thank you. And today we know about 100 people were forced to evacuate. The evacuation center is now at Hancock Elementary, and that's where we find our Abby Black right now. Abby, I was just watching the videos from the scene of people who lived along that street, seeing people carrying their children, running away from the flames. Now you're with them where they've landed this afternoon. I got emotional just seeing it. I can only imagine how they've been today.
Today has been a roller coaster of emotions, Anna, but this is a site where you've seen a lot of hope, where it's started to now progressively build into more hope, whether it started out this morning, heightened awareness, alert shaken. We've seen families reunited with their lost dogs. Families are inside here at the evacuation site getting some hope because they'll be able to stay someplace tonight. But earlier today, when we talked to families who were still just shocked by it all,
I saw a beam of light, and then it was a bigger boom than lightning. First thing I do is run upstairs, grab my children, my wife, and I'm in my underwear. I just walk out.
I woke up to my sister screaming fire. I looked out her window, and then I just threw a shirt on.
Aria Beaker's mother, Regina, rushed outside to find their world engulfed.
I woke up to everything on fire, so my cars were blowing up. I opened the front door, and my red car exploded in my face pretty much when we opened the doors.
Regina grabbed her 3 kids and pets.
Got trapped in our backyard. We couldn't get out. I was about to throw my kids over the fence until 3 men who weren't even on sample or anything else, just heard it and seen it, decided to come and help people.
That spirit of neighbor helping neighbors spread through the chaos.
From me to you, it was absolute chaos from like all 4 of our houses. And then you could see people starting to creep out, and then it just all it turned chaotic, you know, pretty quick, just trying to help each other out.
The help continued at Miller Elementary, where more than 100 families found refuge. Both Miller and Hancock Elementary closed due to the crash. Donated clothes, diapers, food, and water piled on pavement as military nonprofits and the Red Cross mobilized. Even therapy dogs deployed to comfort the shaken.
It's a blessing to have all these people and all these supporters to help us out, because right now, honestly, I don't know what we would do.
But for Beaker, who lives in the crash site, the nightmare continues. She can't return home, has no car, and it's difficult to access insulin her dog needs to survive.
For the direct families that were directly affected, we're trying to get through everybody else who is just displaced because of, you know, small things. And I get everybody's traumatized, whoever wants to go through that, but I'm very frustrated and very angry. It's just something you don't wake up to, and it was a nightmare.
Families still in shock, desperate to wake up from what feels impossible.
It's just like a horror movie you shouldn't wake up to.
We do want to share some good news. You just heard from Aria, who says that feels like a horror movie. Her mother, Regina Beaker, I talked to them about an hour ago, and they were able to get a police escort inside to get their dog, to get that insulin so they could give to their dog. And they are staying in a hotel tonight. I also talked to the commander, one of the military commanders, just literally moments before we went live to get an update. And he says that there are about 40 homes that are impacted by this perimeter. And while many people are able to go back into their homes, there's still about 10 families that may not be able to go back for quite some time. 2 homes that are probably most likely permanently damaged. So they are working with the Liberty Military Housing for more long-term housing. But for tonight, they said that they will make sure for anyone who's displaced, they do have housing for tonight.
Such a shock. Our hearts go out to all the displaced families tonight. Abby, thank you.